We're going to check out my Browns record prediction for 2024 in just a moment. But last year for this video, we got 214 legs. And I got to envision the only reason the football gods did not give the Cleveland Browns a 17-0 season was because we did not get up to 300 legs. So hit the thumbs up button down below if you want the Browns to go undefeated. A tradition truly like any other. Record prediction. You get the schedule in your hand, you go down the list, and you go win, 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 bye, win. So we're going to go through the entire Browns schedule, and I'll go game by game giving win or loss. Now, first, I want to remind everyone of the schedule for 2024, beginning with the preseason. They've got 3 Saturday preseason games, the Packers at home, the Vikings at home, and then all the way in Seattle, which usually teams like to do preseason games near their stadium. That way they don't have to do a big travel exercise, but they're going across the country. Now, the Browns' 2024 schedule will open up at home, Fox's Game of the Week, America's Game of the Week with Tom Brady on the call against the Dallas Cowboys, then off to Jacksonville, then the Giants at home, Raiders on the road, along with the Commanders and Eagles for 3 straight road games, followed up by back-to-back AFC North home games, Bengals and Ravens. Then you've got the Chargers for a 3rd straight home game, followed by a much-needed bye at that point, Saints on the road, and then a run of primetime games. Steelers at home, Thursday Night Football, at Denver, Monday Night Football, back to the Steelers on the road, Week 15 home against the Chiefs, Week 16 in Cincinnati, again on Thursday Night Football. Week 17 in Miami against the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. And then finally, Week 18 at Baltimore. I mean, look at the last 5-6 games there, right? Ravens, Dolphins, Bengals, Chiefs, Steelers. 4 of them were playoff teams last year, and the one that wasn't, the Bengals, still went 9-8, 8-9 without Joe Burrow for much of the year. That is a brutal stretch. But the Browns have the most difficult schedule in the NFL this year based on opponent win percentage from last year. So predict the Browns record for me. Last year, I predicted the Browns would go 11-5-1. Not far off, right? I mean, not too shabby. They went 11-6. And I think when you see the one game I predicted them to tie, that game was very close to tying. So I'm kind of proud of myself. But I do think it's important to grade the grader, myself, in terms of how good am I at predicting games. Last year, here were my game-by-game predictions. I started off 4-0, correctly predicted the Bengals, Steelers, Titans, and Ravens matchup. Had them losing to the Niners. They ended up winning, of course. Was correct in my Colts and Cardinals predictions. I predicted a tie for that Week 10 game in Baltimore. Nearly was a tie. Very, very close game. Week 11 had them beating the Steelers. Had them beating the Broncos in Week 12. They lost that game. I was correct for my Rams prediction. Got the Jags game wrong. They dog-walked Jacksonville essentially at home. And then I rounded out the year with a perfect 4-0. So ultimately, I did pretty well when it came to my game-by-game predictions last year. So with that being said, let's look at my predictions for 2024 going game by game, opening it up at home, Week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys with a win. With a win, baby. I feel like this is going to be an absolute, pardon my French, shit pumping. The Cowboys are looking at the Browns of like, we're not playing Sunday Night Football. We got to play the Browns. They're going to treat the Browns like Michigan treated App State. And you know what? Dallas does not have a good record when they do that. In fact, I went back all the way to the year 2000, and I looked at every single Week 1 game for the Cowboys and how often they played on the road, not in prime time. They played a lot of Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football to open up the season. They are 3-5 when playing on the road, Week 1, not in prime time. So I'm feeling good about the Brownies Week 1. But give me your prediction. Who you got, Browns or Cowboys? I feel like even Cowboys fans know this is a game that we're going to feel like we're a superior team, we're a superior franchise. We should walk all over the Browns. And it's going to be the number one story for Screamin' A and Skip Bayless to talk about the next week when the Browns win by 20 points. Week 2, I've got them winning on the road in Jacksonville to prove to 2-0. And then against the Giants, I've got them winning another game, make it 3 in a row, and the Cleveland Browns are one of the few remaining unbeaten teams. And this will mark the Browns' first 3-0 start, if I did my research correctly, since 1993. Not a great stat to share, but still, it is a real stat. Then I have them losing week 4. And this is more like a bad gut feeling. I never view the Raiders as a legit contender or threat, but I feel like the Browns will have major like belly full syndrome, thinking we're on top of the world. Oh, the Raiders aren't that good this year, but they may sleepwalk a little bit on the road. Kind of gives me shades of the Falcons game 2 years ago, which I also predicted, I remember that now, that they would lose that game. And I could see them kind of looking at this as a bye game and then falling up short. Week 5, they bounced back after a loss in Las Vegas with a win against the Commanders on the road. I'm just thinking about Jim Schwartz dialing up all sorts of pressure for rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels, and I've got the Browns winning against the Commanders with ease. Week 6, they go on the road yet again. We'll put me back on screen, Houdini, and I've got them losing to the Eagles. Philly's a tough place to play, and if they can take down the Commanders on the road, they may end up going 1-3 or 1-2 in this 3-game road stretch. Week 7, they return home to play the Bengals, and I've got them taking down Cincinnati. I mean, we know at this point that Kevin Stefanski dominates the Bengals. Joe Burrow is 0-3 all-time in Cleveland and 1-5 all-time against the Browns in Cincinnati or Cleveland. So, yeah, I'll take the Browns' home win over the team down in Kentucky. Week 8, loss against the Ravens. The AFC North is good. If you want me just to say they're going to go 6-0 in the AFC North, you're at the wrong YouTube channel. I'm going to be realistic with you guys here. And to split these games right here and to go like 2-2 in the stretch altogether would not be the worst outcome in the world. Now, who do you guys think will win the AFC North this year? Browns, Steelers, Ravens, Bengals. My latest projection was Ravens, then Browns, then Bengals, then Steelers. But you give me some more off-season Kool-Aid, and it won't be very long until I've had 1 or 2 beers and I'm going Browns on top. Week 9, at home against the Chargers. Browns win this one. I feel like the Chargers have just given the Browns fits over the last few years. The game in LA a few years ago with Baker and the BS offensive pass interference, and then at home they really melted down defensively. That kind of got Joe Woods fired. So I guess we can thank the LA Chargers for that. But the Browns' last win against wasn't even LA Chargers, San Diego Chargers at the time, was at the end of 2016. So it's been a long time since Cleveland knocked off the Chargers. Week 10, they get a much-needed rest here, a Week 10 bye. Then they got the Saints on the road, and I've got them taking down New Orleans. I feel like the Saints have just been fluttering at 500 the last few years, and that is just a hard thing to sustain. And ultimately, I could see the Saints kind of having a crashing and burn season. But also, my bosses don't know this yet. They definitely won't approve it, but I really want to go to this game. So who's meeting me in New Orleans? Let me know if you're down to go to the Browns-Saints game in New Orleans. Don't know if I'll be able to pull this off. My job responsibilities are strictly tied to watch parties every single Browns game, but if I could pick a game in this schedule to go to, I'd love to go to that game. I just love New Orleans, and to watch a football game there would be incredible. Week 12 at home against the Steelers on Thursday Night Football. It's a shit pumping. Let's go. Brownies take down the Steelers. The Steelers, by the way, have a brutal second half of the schedule. One, they don't start playing a single AFC North opponent until Week 11 against the Ravens. But look at that schedule following the bye. The Commanders not going to be the most difficult game in the world. Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals. Every team that I just said after the Commanders made the playoffs last year, excluding the Bengals, who we all know are probably going to be a little bit better with a healthy Joe Burrow. Now, of course, you don't know who's going to be quarterbacking these teams this late in the season, and that's very important. No one would have thought last year if you had the Browns late in the season, you'd be facing Joe Flacco. But still, that is a really tough stretch for Pittsburgh. So, I love to see it. Week 13 at the Broncos on Monday Night Football. I've got this one down as a loss. Last year, I remember picking the Browns to win in Denver. Of course, no one thought last year Dorian Thompson-Robinson would be starting that game, or was it P.J. Walker? I don't even want to know, actually. But the point being, I could see this being coming off the high of beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, going out west. Cleveland did not do that very well last year when they went out west. Under the lights of primetime Monday Night Football, that could be a loss. Week 14, they go to Pittsburgh, and they take down the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that means, for the first time in a long time, 1989 to be specific, the Browns will have swept the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you guys want to know what was going on in the world the last time this happened? It's not great. The last time the Browns swept the Pittsburgh Steelers in the regular season, Bernie Kosar was the quarterback. George H.W. Bush had been inaugurated as president. The USSR left Afghanistan. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the movie, was released. And Taylor Swift was born. It's been a long time. This is the year it ends. Week 15, home against the Chiefs. And I'm not just getting off the Browns Kool-Aid here. I'm going to put this down as a win. We saw last year, Kansas City was vulnerable throughout many portions of the regular season. And they always seem to figure it out when it gets to the postseason. So I could see this being another game where the Browns come off a huge win on the road in Pittsburgh. They've got momentum at home. The dog pound is barking. And can't you kind of picture fourth quarter, Patrick Mahomes, fourth down, incomplete pass, and he's got that whiny face to the ref of there has to be some call somewhere, and it doesn't happen? That's what I'm forecasting here. Then we've got, at this point, by the way, Browns in the AFC North driver's seat, winning a handful of games, getting ready for the Cincinnati Bengals on the road on Thursday Night Football, and I've got them losing. I've got the Bengals winning at home against the Browns, which I know Browns have dominated Cincinnati for the last 3-4 years or whatever, but ultimately the Bengals have been able to beat the Browns at home before in Cincinnati, so I think maybe the high of these two wins could come crashing down on Thursday Night Football for Cincinnati. But they bounce back Sunday Night Football in Miami. I'll put this down as a win. I am a little bit concerned about going down to Miami in the heat. I know that sounds strange, but believe me, a lot of guys that play for northern teams, when they go down to Miami in December, that sun, it beats down on the away sideline. The Dolphins sideline is completely shaded. The other sideline, they are huffing and puffing. But actually, it's Sunday Night Football, so that wouldn't be an issue, which means this wins can be even easier for the Browns. I just talked myself into them winning by an extra touchdown on the spot. To round out the year in Baltimore, beat the Ravens. Beat the Ravens, maybe to win the AFC North, maybe to get a much better seed in the playoff picture. I don't know, but I've got them beating the Ravens and finishing the year 12-5, which, given how difficult their record is, like that last stretch right there, Ravens, Chiefs, Dolphins, like that's a really brutal stretch. To come out 12-5 would be a really impressive record given how difficult their schedule is this year. All right, I want to bring on Colin Brown to pick a card. Colin, do you like my record prediction?
I thought it was pretty well thought out.
Yeah. I love to use history for like stuff like this.
You never.
Yeah.
History buff, crazy.
I got a USSR reference in there.
I'm about to say
that was probably a first. I'm not gonna lie.
In all my months of working at Chat Sports, I never thought I'd have to try to find an Indiana Jones little graphic or whatever.
Yeah, my first month of Chat Sports, I made a reference to the Maginot Line in World War II and how the opposing offensive line was doing worse than the French did. Had to explain that one to my boss. Did not understand it. And I was like, someone hasn't watched enough World War II in color. All right, are you ready to pick a card?
I'm going to go with the 10 of diamonds today.
Okay. I'm going to go with the 6 of clubs. If you know, you know. 8 of clubs. 8 of clubs. All right, that will do it for us on this edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you all later.